Greetings all new hammer, middle hammer, and old hammer folks. I am Old Grumpy Wolf and welcome to my how to paint 90s Grim Bright Ultramarines tutorial. I've been looking forward to getting this video done as I've had quite a few folks asking me to do an Ultramarines tutorial for a few years now. Before we get too far into things, please keep in mind this is not a get your mini painted and on the tabletop in 20 minutes kind of video. There are plenty of tutorials like that here on YouTube and this simply isn't one of them. This tutorial is meant to help teach you how to paint something a little bit more advanced that you would keep on your shelf as a display piece. As I've mentioned in previous tutorials, I can't give you a breakdown of how much water to add to your paints for diluting them. I work on a dry palette, which is a piece of glass I've been using for over 20 years. The amount of water I add will be different than those of you working on wet palettes. And again, as I've mentioned before, I have nothing against wet palettes. I just wasn't a fan of using one when I tried it out. I just stick with what works for me. But what I will recommend is checking out Rogue Hobby's video I have linked in the info below called The Big Miniature FAQ. Louise goes over some really awesome questions regarding paint consistency that utilizes a modern wet palette, and I wouldn't have been able to give you a better explanation than she did. It's absolutely spot on. With all that said, here's a complete list of the paints and materials I use for this tutorial. I utilize a wide variety of paint brands as I look for specific behaviors with different colors. There's no right or wrong brand at all, just what works best for you and how you paint. The blues I've chosen from Army Painter War Painter mimic that awesome bright and bold 90s Grim Bright style for the Ultramarines armor I was so fond of seeing when I was young and slightly less grumpy wolf. As always, if any of you have any questions, feel free to DM me via my Old Grumpy Wolf Instagram account and I will do my best to help you out. I always respond to all of my DMs and usually very quickly too. I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial and I will talk to you after it's done. Starting the mini is fairly straightforward. Glue the mini to its base, clean up the mold lines, take outside and shoot with Citadel White Scar primer, bring the mini back inside, and base coat. For the base coat of my Ultramarines, I use 2 or 3 heavily thinned out coats of Army Painter War Painter Royal Blue. After the base coats are dry, I will go through and panel line the armor with AK Dark Prussian Blue to create separation in the plates and crevices. Also, I will fill in any of the areas that need a black base undercoat. Once the black is dry, I'll clean up all the blue armor panels with thinned out War Painter Royal Blue again and move on to the next step. Once all of the armor panels and black areas are coated, I will mix up the first mid-tone highlight consisting of 50% War Painter Royal Blue and 50% Crystal Blue, along with a good amount of water. I apply this initial highlight fairly liberally over various armor panels, including at the edges of the armor panels, along the larger areas on the legs, knee pad, upper torso, and helmet, making sure to keep this coat thinned out with water as to create a subtle warming up gradient effect in the blue of the armor. After the first mid-tone highlight is finished, I mix pure War Painter Crystal Blue with water and I begin applying this inside of the first mid-tone highlight. Make sure to keep this layer fairly thinned out with water to help build on that warming up effect I mentioned earlier. Again, this covers all of the armor panels and edges, but being sure to keep it smaller inside the first mid-tone highlight. The mid-tone highlights are important as they help build a natural gradient leading up to the final edge highlights that are shown in the next step. If the contrast is too stark, heavily water down some Crystal Blue and feathering it in using layer glazing will help. Now that the midtones are layered in, it's time to move on to edge highlighting. I do the first step using pure War Painter Arctic Gem. Just like in the previous step, this edge highlight is thinned out with water so as to keep the brush loaded, which allows for easier continuous lines around the very edges of the armor panels. Keeping your paints thinned out for edge highlighting like this is important as it creates a more consistent edge line, and the brush will stay tipped much easier as it's going to retain a good amount of moisture and paint in its bulb. For the final edge highlight, I use War Painter Bright Sapphire. This step is applied to small areas of the armor inside of the first War Painter Arctic Gem highlight. I won't run it completely around the edges, just in small places where light might build up. I also like to dot the edges of certain armor spots to give them a little bit more visual attention. You don't have to go overboard with these highlights, just add them as a small amount of visual flair. But as I mentioned before, keeping the paint thinned out with water is important for this step, as it will keep the brush tipped properly and affords you more precision when applying the final edge highlight. Once all of the highlighting is finished, I will go back through and clean up all of the recessed areas and panel lining using thinned out AK Dark Prussian Blue and AK Black. For the Marine's eye lenses, I always begin with a black base coat. After the black is dry, I start painting in thinned out layers of ProAcryl Pyro Red until the lens is a solid color, leaving black around the edges. For the highlights, I start adding ProAcryl Orange into my Pyro Red. I'll do 2 to 3 of these highlights, working up to pure ProAcryl Orange, keeping all of those highlights thinned out with water. For the final touch, I'll thin out AK White with water and dot the upper corners of the eye lenses. For the black details at the backs of the legs, on the stomach pipes, the face tubes, and breather fins, I start by picking out all the raised surface areas on them with pure thinned out AK Basalt Gray. From there, I'll do a 50-50 mix of AK Basalt Gray and AK Sky Gray. For the third highlight, I use pure AK Basalt Gray. A final highlight of AK White Gray, thinned with water, is applied to all the edges and high points of the raised surfaces. As I referenced in my Space Wolf tutorial, the way I paint my yellows is the most labor-intensive thing in my tutorials, but it's worth it to get that awesome yellow look. The chest Aquilla is given an undercoat of thinned out ProAcryl Bright Ivory. The Bright Ivory helps to keep the yellow top coat vivid and bold due to being a warm undercoat. Once dry, I heavily thin out Citadel Aerial Yellow and apply a few coats to achieve solid coverage. Next, I thin out some Citadel Magmadroth Flame contrast paint and wash the entire yellow surface, allowing the orange to collect in the crevices. If the orange doesn't feel saturated enough, apply another thin coat of Magmadroth Flame to help richen it up. After the wash dries, I go back through and pick out each feather with ProAcryl Bright Ivory again. This is how I begin creating the panel lining between each feather. After the Bright Ivory undercoating is done, I will thin out Citadel Aerial Yellow again and paint over each feather I just undercoated. Once the feathers have been recoated individually in yellow, I begin mixing in ProAcryl Bright Ivory to my Citadel Aerial Yellow and work up 2 to 3 thinned out highlights. Before the final highlight is done, I'll very carefully clean up spillover with Magmadroth Flame again, and I'll tip each feather with Bright Ivory as the final highlight to give everything a clean and crisp appearance. The jewel in the chest is painted the same way as the eye lenses. Base coat over black with ProAcryl Pyro Red. Start highlighting the bottom of the jewel by adding in and working up to pure ProAcryl Orange, and then dot the top corner of the jewel with thinned out AK White. The belt is given a base coat of AK Dark Brown over the initial AK Black undercoat. This is a thinner pigmented color, so it may take a few coats to get solid coverage on. If your Marine has pouches, you can add some Citadel Agrax Earthshade into the crevices to help with a panel lining effect. For the highlights, I mix in Vallejo Model Colored Desert Yellow with the AK Dark Brown, working up 2 to 3 thinned out highlights. Then I hit the top edges of the belt with thinned out pure Vallejo Model Colored Desert Yellow. Once the brown is finished, if your Marine has buttons on his pouches, dot them with a little pure thinned out ProAcryl Bright Ivory. For the chapter knee pad marking, I base coat with 3 to 4 very thinned out coats of AK White to help keep the surface as smooth as possible. The key to creating clean and solid whites is to work with very thinned out paint and apply in layers. From there, I draw a straight horizontal line with War Painter Royal Blue at the top of the knee pad where I want the Ultramarine symbol to start. Then I draw a circle connecting to the horizontal line while filling it in with more War Painter Royal Blue. Once dry, I'll draw a vertical line with thinned out AK white and fill in the blue circle with a white one. From there, it's a matter of carefully correcting your shapes to create the Ultramarines badge. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, utilizing transfers will make the job a lot easier. As for the bases of my minis, I paint the tops in a few coats of Citadel Elysian Green. I'll also base coat the rim with the same thinned out Elysian Green, as this helps with the next step. After the green is dried, I will do several thinned out coats of Citadel Doombull Brown. Unfortunately, Doombull Brown is a very thin color, so those several coats are required for clean and solid coverage. I like to utilize Elysian Green as an undercoat for the flock I use, as they pair together very well. Once the paint is dried, I'll go through and coat the top of the base with Gorilla Superglue. I spread the superglue around using a toothpick or a nail and my X-Acto knife. The X-Acto knife helps to get the glue into tight areas and recesses around the feet of the miniature. Once the glue is evenly spread, I'll coat the glue in 2000 Citadel Fine Flock and Static Flock and shake off any excess. Make sure to blow on the base afterwards to get rid of any leftover flock that may not have stuck. From there, I scrape any spillover from the base with my X-Acto knife. For the final step, I will repaint the rim of the base again with Citadel Doombull Brown. Once dry, I take the mini outside and shoot with a few thin coats of Citadel Munitorum varnish. For my metallics, I undercoat all silver metal areas in AK Black. Once dry, I will cover those areas with thinned out Citadel Stormhost Silver in a bit of a choppy application. The silver is given a heavy wash made from a mix of Citadel Black Templar, Nuln Oil, and water. I make sure to get the wash to heavily pool in the recesses, which helps to define shapes and shadows. After the wash dries, I go back through the silver metallic areas and stipple on and refine edges with more thinned out Citadel Stormhost Silver until I like how things look. If any recesses need fixing, I'll thin out AK Black and apply where needed. The Marine's bolter is undercoated in a few coats of AK White, then base coated with ProAcryl Pyro Red. Bolter is highlighted up using a 50-50 mix of ProAcryl Pyro Red and Orange, working up to pure ProAcryl Orange. I will give the very corners of the bolter dot-based highlights with thinned out AK Pastel Peach. All rivets and metal details are cleaned up with AK Black again and painted over with pure Citadel Stormhost Silver. For the arms and backpack, everything shown here is just repeated from earlier in the video. Though I hand-painted the arrow and Roman numeral on the shoulder pad, I'd recommend using transfers to save time. The arrow and Roman numeral took me a good 4 hours to get right. But with the rest of the pieces, take your time with the smaller bits and be sure to pay attention to all of the details just as you would on the body portion of the miniature. Once the arms and backpacks were finished, they were given a coat of Munitorum varnish. This arm needed to be coated and varnished to apply the transfer properly, otherwise the microsol would eat into the paint. The chapter badge transfer and shoulder pad are coated in microsol. I slide the transfer off the paper and onto the shoulder pad with a brush, position correctly, and dab off excess microsol with a cotton swab. The arm is given a coat of varnish again after this step to ensure the transfer is locked in place. With everything complete, it's time to assemble the Mini. After giving the varnish a good 15 minutes to dry on all of the pieces, I dab on Gorilla Super Glue where any part needs to go on the model, hold in place until set, and move on to the next piece. Once everything is set up, I take the Mini outside for one final coat of Citadel Munitorm varnish to make sure the finish is consistent looking. And here we are, a very dapper and rather snazzy looking 1990s Grim Bright Ultramarine. So there you have it, the methods and steps I take to paint my 90s Grim Bright Ultramarines. I genuinely hope this video helped you all in some way or another. As I've mentioned in previous videos, it's an absolute honor to make these tutorials for you. 90s Grim Bright is how I've been painting for most of my life, and I love being able to help the folks I can through modern means like YouTube. If you would, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with other fans of Ultramarines who want to learn how to paint them, and give my channel a follow. Also, be sure to check out my Minibar podcast where I sit down with other painters from around the web and chat it up about lots of fun topics. I release new episodes every other Tuesday. But with all that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm hoping to have my Dark Angels tutorial video done and out hopefully by the end of June. But until then, I hope you guys have fun, and I will talk to you again soon.